Number 10. The Cartel Wife. Camila Morodan was arrested in the Brazilian coastal town of Matinos in November of 2021. She was arrested for playing a part in the vicious assassination of her husband, Ricardo Morodan. What makes everything even more tragic and disturbing is the assassination took place during their son's birthday party. Camila is an online model and fashion influencer. Her husband, Ricardo, was believed by local police to be the leader of a dangerous drug cartel. But this proved not to be the case. Cops now believe it was actually the wife, Camila, who was in charge of the entire cartel. They're now trying to bring her up on 3 murder charges, 1 for her husband and 2 more for a pair of cops who were murdered. Camila's capture was part of a military police operation in which they arrested 14 other members of the cartel. They moved in on her house and delivered the arrest warrant, only to discover she wasn't there. But she wasn't that hard to track down. Police caught her as she tried to escape and hide out at her mother's house. Camila herself didn't pull the trigger. It was members of the criminal gang she was in charge of. 4 armed suspects showed up to her son's birthday celebration and executed her husband in front of the partygoers. They used the same vehicle that was involved in the assassination of the 2 cops just days before. But the true reason why she orchestrated such a brutal killing is still under investigation. Maybe she just wanted all the money and power for herself. Number 9. Oops. In January 2021, Lenora A. from Sonora, Mexico found explicit images on her husband Juan's phone. The graphic pictures showed him having sex with another woman. Lenora was not one to hold back on her anger. She thought she had caught him cheating on her red-handed. The evidence was more than enough to prove his guilt, right? In a fit of rage, she went ballistic and ended up stabbing him multiple times in the arms and legs. If Lenora would have stopped to think for a minute, she could have avoided this grave mistake. Juan fortunately managed to snatch the knife from her. He had no clue about what set her off. When she pointed at those pictures, Juan told her that the images were actually of her and from their early days. According to the police report, Lenora could not identify herself because she was younger, thinner, and had makeup on. Juan had found the images in an old email and had transferred those to his phone recently, and that is what Lenora stumbled upon. She was arrested after the incident, and her charges are yet to be filed. Number 8. Stealing a cop car. How far would you go for your partner? Well, for this Alaskan couple, there's no line that can't be crossed. 38-year-old Joshua Watford got arrested for skipping his court-mandated classes after previously being convicted of drunk driving. After he was put in the back of the patrol car, the arresting officer was stopped by a passing motorist, who struck up a conversation with the officer. And it was while the officer was distracted that 28-year-old Amber Watford, Joshua's wife, saw the window of opportunity and got the wise idea to get behind the wheel of the cop car. She snuck in and drove off with her husband, handcuffed inside. The vehicle was found abandoned on the side of the road an hour later. The couple drove to Wasilla and decided to rest at a house in the town there. It obviously didn't take long for the cops to find the car. What started as an escape plan for Joshua soon became a foolproof way to land the husband and wife in jail. Number 7. Guilty. In May 2021, a booze-fueled sexcapade in Rio de Janeiro turned into a gore-filled mess. I guess that's what happens when you get alcohol, drugs, money, and escorts involved. Brazilian singer MC Kevin and his friend Victor Fontanelle were spending the evening with 26-year-old Bianca Dominguez. Kevin and Victor were enjoying drinks at the beach. The two had also been taking drugs when model and escort Bianca met them. The three spoke for a while and agreed on having a little fun at Kevin's hotel room nearby. Both Kevin and Victor paid Bianca money up front. They all went back to the room, but Kevin got paranoid that his wife, 33-year-old Deolance Becerra, would find out. And he was right to feel this way, because suddenly there was a knock on the door and he could hear his wife telling him to let her in. Kevin did not want to get caught. Confused and scared of what was to follow, it seemed like a better idea to just try and escape the situation that would undoubtedly be messy and dramatic. At this point, Kevin was way past the point of intoxication and obviously wasn't thinking clearly. His room was on the 5th floor, and probably his initial idea was to just jump 1 floor down onto the balcony just below him and hide. According to Bianca and Victor's statements, he jumped from the balcony without really thinking it through. Kevin fell from a height of 49 feet or about 15 meters and hit the pool bar sunshade. He then bounced off the railing of the pool and landed on the ground. When investigators and his wife reached the hotel room, the entire place was a mess. Condoms and liquor bottles were scattered everywhere, but there was no sign of foul play. The guilt and fear that came with cheating on his wife ultimately took Kevin's life. Number 6. Eye dropped. 53-year-old Lana Sue Clayton was a former Veterans Affairs nurse. In 2020, she was sentenced to 25 years in prison for killing her husband. Lana Sue was suffering from PTSD due to domestic violence, or at least that was the reason she claimed for why she did what she did. She decided to put her misery to rest and make her husband suffer. She said that she had only intended to make him uncomfortable, she didn't mean to kill him. Her husband, 64-year-old Stephen D. Clayton, died at their home in Clover, South Carolina. Cause of death? Poison. But Lana didn't administer him cyanide or any other deadly drugs that you might have heard of. Her weapon of choice was Visine, a common non-prescription eye drop medication. Visine contains a chemical compound that is known to constrict blood vessels, and ingesting it in large amounts can lead to death. She spiked Stephen's drinks with eye drops. According to her statement, she had initially set out to give him only 1 dose of the medicine, but she changed her mind and slipped the drops in for 3 days in a row. This ended up killing him, and she was given 25 years in prison. If Lana Sue really was abused by her husband, do you think what she did is justified? Tell us your thoughts in the comments and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Number 5. The Plan. In 2012, after a bitter divorce, 35-year-old Audrey Dosty from Jacksonville, Florida was in desperate need to reach out to her husband, but she couldn't just drive to his house or pick up the phone and call him. Dosty's situation was a bit more complicated. Her ex-husband had filed a restraining order against her, stating that she had been physically abusive in their relationship. With no other way to talk to him, Dosty came up with a plan. Instead of figuring out a simple and civil way to reach out, she included the Florida courthouse in her heartbreak as well. When the staff of the courthouse arrived at the premises the next morning, they were shocked to find graffiti of broken hearts all over the pillars and walls of the $350 million property. Dosty had managed to deface almost all of the exterior walls of the courthouse with hearts and initials. She even spray painted messages on the pathway for her husband. One such message read, "Free us." Now, we didn't say it was a good plan. The courthouse wasn't the only place she had vandalized. Audrey even defaced the offices of her husband's family-owned company called Dosty Homes. An officer caught her still holding a can of spray paint, and she was charged with criminal mischief, and was also sent for a thorough mental health evaluation. Number 4. Sugary death. In July 2020, a woman from the United Kingdom was sentenced to life in prison for killing her husband, and how she did it will shock you. 59-year-old Karina Smith was married to 81-year-old Michael Baines. On the day of the murder, many witnesses revealed that she had been angry with Baines all through the day. Later, it came to light that Smith's daughter revealed a dark secret about her husband. Baines was a sexual predator and had forced Karina's daughter to do unspeakable things. This sparked a rage in Karina that could not be calmed. Though she was angry, she didn't utter a word about it to Baines. The next day, she took a bucket to her garden and filled it up with water. Smith then added 3 bags of sugar to it and put it onto a boil. Baines was still asleep when she was preparing his death trap in the kitchen. She then took the bucket of boiling water and poured it all over her husband. When you mix sugar with boiling water, it sinks into the skin even better and causes more harm. Smith then coolly walked to her neighbor's house and said, "I've hurt him really bad. I think I've killed him." When the police arrived, Baines was in his bed seething in pain. 36% of his body was covered in burns. He died a month later in the hospital. Number 3. Fine and punishment. In 2015, a Saudi woman found a creative way to seek revenge on her unworthy husband. The woman's husband was marrying a second time, and she was not happy about not being his only wife. So, to punish him, she took his pickup truck and gave it to her brother. The plan was to make as many traffic violations as possible. The brother and sister chose to drive through red lights where license plates would clearly be visible to traffic cameras. And that's not all. They even put the car in reverse and backed over multiple stop signs. The duo spent the entire evening jumping signals, breaking as many rules as they could to register a high fine under Saudi's traffic system. At the end of the evening, the tally was up to $80,000. Number 2. New girlfriend. 32-year-old Chelsea Watros Cook was a health and yoga instructor living in Utah. To everyone that knew her, she seemed to live a pretty normal and happy life. No one knew how much hate she had brewing inside of her after she and her husband separated. No one expected her to take it out on his new girlfriend, and no one expected her to be a murderer. On November 25, 2018, Chelsea went to her ex-husband's apartment where he was living with his 26-year-old girlfriend Lisa Williams. Their children were also in the house when the incident happened. Chelsea had gone to drop off some medicine for the kids, but she was lingering around the house. Lisa asked her to leave, but Chelsea refused to go. The ex-husband was in the parking lot when this happened. Lisa called 911, but not soon enough. Chelsea had a handgun hidden in her coat. Her hatred for her ex and Lisa was too much for her to handle. She fired 3 rounds at Lisa before her husband ran inside, tackling her and taking the gun away, but it was too late. When he desperately tried to stop the blood flow and give Lisa first aid, Chelsea walked over to her 3-year-old twins and sat on the recliner watching them coldly as if nothing had happened. Her ex made sure that she would not leave the premises by pinning her against the wall. Fortunately, the police arrived before she could make any other move and arrested her for aggravated murder. She was sentenced to 34 years behind bars after being found guilty of multiple charges, including domestic violence, misdemeanor possession and use of firearms, and the act of violence in front of children. Number 1. Ex-husband sale. A woman from Superior, Wisconsin celebrated her divorce in 2012 with an ex-husband sale. She arranged a yard sale in front of her house to get rid of all of her ex-husband's belongings. She also put up signs to make sure that the people knew about the divorce. Their relationship might not have been good, but the people who were at the yard sale did benefit from it. Wondering how? All the clothes and belongings were given away for free. Her little celebration event caused a traffic jam, because next to all those piled up things, she had displayed her ex-husband's car. The GMC Yukon SUV had flat tires and the word cheater carved onto it. The car also had many other obscene words spray painted onto its sides. The traffic jam finally got the attention of police, and they had to intervene. She moved the car, but the piles of clothes and yard sale signs were still in place. A neighbor revealed that the woman had filed for divorce a year ago, and now that it was finalized, she and a few of her friends decided to have a little fun while cleaning out the house. So the next time you want to clear out your ex's junk, let us remind you that there are websites that will help you do exactly that. And guess what? You could also make yourself some money from it. Number 8. Carla Walker. Quote, "When I saw her smile, I smiled. I truly loved her." End quote. These words hung heavy in the court as the now 65-year-old Rodney McCoy talked about his former high school sweetheart, cheerleader Carla Walker. The night of February 17, 1974 marked a very special occasion, their school's Valentine's dance. Carla had the perfect powder blue dress. McCoy gave her a floral corsage and the parents waved them off. Little did they know this would be the last time they'd see their daughter alive. After the young couple left the dance, they climbed back into the car and started kissing. Completely unaware of their surroundings, McCoy was confused when he saw the car door open, causing them to fall out. He was hit several times on the head while Carla yelled for the attacker to stop. As the initial shock wore off, he realized that he'd been shot with a gun. The attacker then dragged Carla away as she screamed for her boyfriend to get her dad. 3 days later, Carla's body was discovered near Benbrook Lake. She had been raped, beaten, tortured, and strangled. The medical examiner also determined the killer gave morphine to her. During the initial investigation, the police had multiple suspects in mind. They were even able to obtain DNA samples from the crime scene. In the 1970s, though, there was no adequate technology to use the samples to identify the killer. The murder remained unsolved for 46 years until DNA evidence was sent to Othram Incorporated in September of 2020. Othram's findings from the results led to the identification and arrest of 77-year-old Glenn Samuel McCurley. In August 2021, he was put on trial. McCurley changed his plea to guilty before the jury decided, and he was sentenced to life. Number 7. KAYLEY MANDADI. Giddy with excitement, KAYLEY MANDADI dressed up for the music festival she'd been looking forward to with her boyfriend Mark Howerton. The couple had just started dating and only been together for 5 weeks. but their relationship was rocky with allegations of violence and some unexplained bruises. KAYLEY MANDADI was a Trinity University sophomore getting her degree in communications. She was last seen alive on October 29, 2017 with her boyfriend at the San Antonio Music Festival. Things took a very dark turn while the couple was there. They supposedly got into a heated argument which came to a quick halt when KAYLEY threatened to end things with Mark. After they calmed down, they decided to take a spontaneous road trip to Houston, which was 2 hours and 52 minutes away. Something strange happened during the drive, ending with KAYLEY MANDADI being rushed to the hospital. In an interview with police, Mark claimed that the couple had consensual but pretty rough sex. He went on to say that KAYLEY had taken some party drugs and wasn't feeling very well. Minutes later, she passed out, so he rushed her to the hospital. This, though, did not align with what KAYLEY's mother saw. Her mom, Allison Steele, said that her face was completely battered. It looked like she had been thrown out of a plane or flung off a cliff. MANDADI was declared brain dead later in the night and taken off of life support. The injuries led investigators to call it a case of murder. According to the medical examiner, she was killed from blunt force trauma to the face and head. On February 28, 2018, Mark was arrested and charged with sexual assault, murder, and kidnapping. The investigation was complicated since there were no witnesses. The trial started in December of 2019. Prosecutors created an image of Mark killing KAYLEY in a jealous, angry rage. However, on the other hand, the defense team brought in a doctor to testify in Mark's favor. According to the doctor, he looked at the autopsy report and didn't agree with the findings that KAYLEY was assaulted. He couldn't find any proof that Mark Howerton was blamed for KAYLEY's death. As a result, the jury could not come to a decision after 10 hours of deliberation, and the judge was forced to declare a mistrial. Do you think Mark was guilty? Let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to subscribe if you're enjoying the video so far. Number 6. BREANA ROUHSELANG. BREANA, a 17-year-old cheerleader and expectant mother, was brutally killed by her classmate and baby daddy Aaron Trejo in Mishawaka, Indiana. On December 8, 2018 at around 11 p.m., BREANA, 6 months pregnant at the time, told her mom Melissa that she would meet Aaron in an alley behind their house. While the teens were still outside, Melissa fell asleep. She woke up at 1 a.m. to find her daughter had still not returned. Fear began to creep in as she drove a couple of blocks over to Aaron's home. He stated that he had not seen BREANA since she had failed to show up. Around 4 a.m. on December 9th, Melissa contacted the St. Joseph County Police Department. The authorities were quick to respond. They approached Aaron, who stuck with his story. Meanwhile, a few officers looked at the alley BREANA was supposed to be at. There, they discovered a bloody hat. The blood trail led them to a dumpster on Battelle Street, where her body was found hidden under a trash bag. An autopsy showed BREANA had been stabbed multiple times and suffocated. The county police arrested Aaron, who said that they were supposed to meet in the alley. He sent her a text when she didn't show up for a while. The officers told Aaron there was physical evidence that didn't match up with his story. Sensing they were onto something, they asked if the two fought that night, and Aaron said yes. He was angry that BREANA had not told him about her pregnancy until it was too late to do anything about it, and he confessed to killing BREANA and their unborn child. When they met up that fateful night, he stabbed her in the heart. After this confession, Aaron was charged with 1 count of adult murder and 1 count of feticide. On January 7, 2020, Aaron was found guilty on all charges. Number 5. Kirsten Costas. Kirsten Costas was a popular sophomore studying at Miramonte High School in 1984. The 15-year-old was a cheerleader and part of the Bobolinka's civic group, known as the Bobbies. Her friends describe her as witty, outgoing, confident, and sarcastic. Bernadette Prati, on the other hand, was jealous of Kirsten. She, unlike her classmate, came from a poor home. The Pratises couldn't afford the Costas family lifestyle, which was exactly what Bernadette wanted. She aspired to be like Kirsten, who was attractive and well-liked by her peers. Bernadette also pined for Kirsten, who wanted nothing to do with her. Prati soon devised a strategy to win over Kirsten by the end of 1984. She called Kirsten's mom to tell her that there was a dinner for new Bobbies planned for the following Saturday. She said she would pick up Kirsten for the dinner at around 8:30 p.m. Kirsten was disappointed to see Bernadette come to get her, but she was furious when she found out the invitation was fake. An argument between the two girls ensued, causing Bernadette to break out in tears while Kirsten went back home angry. Bernadette followed her home and stabbed her with an 18-inch or 45-centimeter blade. Kirsten, badly hurt, knocked on a neighbor's door. The neighbor held the bleeding girl in his arms and yelled for his son to dial 911. As police secured the scene, Kirsten was taken to the hospital. She was pronounced dead at 11 p.m. on Saturday, June 23, 1984. One of the stab wounds had hit her in the heart's main artery. Authorities interviewed several students to find the murderer, including Bernadette. Bernadette was interviewed for the second time on December 9, 1984. The investigators were confident they had found their assailant. She wrote her parents a letter where she admitted to killing Kirsten. The Protesses, after reading the note, drove her to the police station where her confession was taped. Despite the weight of her crime, Bernadette was only sentenced to 9 years in prison. Number 4. Emma Walker. You're never safe, not even in your room. A Central High School cheerleader named Emma Walker went to sleep in her family's Tennessee home. Her mother, Jill Walker, went in to check on her when she didn't wake up the next day and discovered Emma's dead body. Her untimely death seemed to be a mystery at first. Authorities eventually found a bullet hole in her wall, suggesting she was killed during her sleep. Mark Walker, her father, said he had heard a loud noise on November 21, 2016, the same night that she had died. He said it sounded like there was someone who had opened and slammed a door. Emma was vibrant and outgoing, and she quickly caught the eye of Riley Gall. Even though she was 2 years Emma's senior and already had a girlfriend, Emma and Gall dated for 2 years on and off. After Emma found Gall with other girls, she ended their relationship for good. Walker received troubling text messages the Friday before Thanksgiving, saying Gall had been kidnapped. Gall called her while shrieking for help, so she dashed out of the house and found him standing there, casually, just fine and dandy. Emma was seen pleading with him just to leave her alone. He claimed 2 men had abducted him, but Emma suspected Gall of making it up. Emma was startled the following day when she saw a man dressed in all black. This person approached the front door of her house and attempted to enter. She was terrified, so she asked Riley for help. He rushed to her side and searched the house, but the figure was nowhere to be found. Gall told investigators that he spoke to Emma on the phone just hours before she was shot. He once again tried to patch things up, only to be rejected. He told investigators that he spent the rest of the evening crying in the parking lot of his college dorm. On the other hand, friends and family remembered Gall's possessive and threatening tendencies towards Walker. Investigators had their doubts after a neighbor told detectives she thought Gall could have been the man in black. Gall's friends, Alex and Noah, contacted the sheriff after Gall confessed that he had to get rid of his grandfather's gun. Noah and Alex agreed to get wired so they could catch Gall while he was disposing of the weapon, allowing investigators to move in at the correct time and get the gun. The plan went smoothly. Gall claimed in court that he didn't mean to kill Emma when he fired the fatal shots, and that he thought they would only scare her. No one believed him, and he was found guilty of first-degree murder. Number 3. Wanda Holloway, aka Pom-Pom Mom. News of a Channelview mother being arrested for hiring a hitman in an attempt to get her daughter a position on a cheerleading squad left a Houston community dumbfounded on January 31st, 1991. Wanda Holloway was accused of trying to hire an assassin to murder the mother of her daughter's cheerleading rival. Verna Heath, Amber Heath's mother, was the original target. Amber had been a member of the Alice Johnson Junior High School cheerleading squad and was pretty good. Holloway believed that if Amber's mother was murdered, she would be too sad to try out for cheerleader, making it much easier for Holloway's daughter, Shayna, to make the squad and shine. Holloway tried to organize the hitman deal with her former brother-in-law, Terry Harper, but Harper quickly told the sheriff's department. When Harper and Holloway met to close the deal at the Pasadena motel, their discussion was recorded. She was later criminally charged with solicitation of a capital murder. Holloway was dubbed the, quote, Pom-Pom Mom after the case gained national media attention. Number 2. Brooke Skylar Richardson. Brooke Skylar Richardson, a former high school cheerleader, almost faced spending the rest of her life in prison. The now 21-year-old Ohio woman was exonerated of murder charges against her own newborn baby. Skylar, who had an eating disorder, found out she was pregnant from her OBGYN and kept it a secret from everyone. Then, on May 7, 2017, just under 48 hours after her high school prom, she gave birth to the child at home, alone, still keeping her pregnancy a secret. She went to her OBGYN in July 2017 and told the doctors her baby was stillborn and that she had buried the body in her family's backyard. The doctors alerted state officials immediately, and Richardson, who was 18 at the time, was questioned by police without the help of a lawyer. She faced multiple charges, including aggravated murder, which holds a mandatory life sentence in her state. Skylar's lawyer, H. Rittigers, was approached by prosecutors in July 2019 with an offer of a plea deal, but it would still send Richardson to a correctional facility. But Warren County Judge Donald Oda released her after just 14 months. Richardson teared up during a brief statement in the court and said she was sorry for everything and felt guilty for all the pain that she had put people through. She continued by saying she would be sticking to mental health treatment and felt remorse for her actions at the time. At the end of the hearing, Judge Oda talked directly to Skylar and said that nothing in her behavior made Oda think that she would ever commit a crime like this again. Number 1. TRISTYN Bailey. The gruesome murder of young TRISTYN shook the state of Florida. Her body was found near a pond in her neighborhood, stabbed an alarming 114 times in the Durbin Crossing subdivision. The sheriff's office arrested Aiden Fucci a day after the 13-year-old cheerleader was discovered. He had grown up in the same neighborhood and attended the same school as TRISTYN. Fucci went viral after he uploaded a selfie in a police car with the caption, quote, "Hey guys, has anyone seen TRISTYN lately? End quote, showcasing just how smart he is. The police searched his room where they found bloody clothes and sneakers and a notepad with disturbing pictures. Some drawings even had satanic elements. Another illustration showed a naked woman with red X's over her genitals. Aiden's girlfriend told police the boy often chatted about murder. When he wasn't at school, he even carried a knife. According to the girl, Aiden had talked about killing someone for a month before TRISTYN's death. Fucci was initially charged with second-degree murder in the death of Bailey, but State Attorney R.J. Lariza announced that the charge against Fucci had been revised to first-degree murder. Fucci has entered the not guilty plea and is being held without bail, awaiting his trial. Number 13. Model and Gangster. Lara Zuniga, a 23-year-old Mexican model, was detained with 7 accused drug traffickers at a military roadblock in Zapopan, just outside of Guadalajara, on December 22, 2008. They were traveling in 2 separate vehicles, which were loaded with firearms, ammo, 16 cell phones, and $53,300 in cash. Angel Orlando Garza Urquiza, the brother of the suspected drug trafficker, was recognized as one of the group's men and seemed to be her boyfriend. After winning the Miss Sinaloa title in 2009, Zuniga, a former preschool teacher, was set to represent Mexico in an upcoming international pageant. She told authorities that she wanted to travel to Bolivia and Colombia to do some shopping first. Zuniga later said in an interview that she was kidnapped by her boyfriend Urquiza and was unaware of his unlawful activities. She was first sentenced to 40 days in prison, but was released, and the accusations against her were soon withdrawn because no evidence linking her to illegal behavior existed. Miss Bala, a 2011 film, was inspired by her life. Number 12. More Than a Pretty Face. 25-year-old Laura Mojica Romero was arrested in February 2020 in Huatusco, a city in the Mexican state of Veracruz, on the suspicion of being a member in a kidnapping group. Romero was born in San Juan Bautista Tuxtepec, Oaxaca, and had previously won the Miss Oaxaca Regional Beauty Pageant in 2018. In an interview in January 2019 after her Miss Oaxaca triumph, the model defined herself as, quote, more than just a pretty face. Much more, in fact. The business studies graduate said her priorities included tackling the problem of violence against women, saying, quote, "We can't stand idly by. We have to eradicate violence against women through campaigns and educational talks that make men aware of this issue. Obviously, she's a big liar." If she's found guilty, the beauty queen faces a sentence of up to 50 years in prison. She was apprehended along with 3 other ladies and 5 males after a sting operation carried out by some experts. According to the most recent information on the case, Romero and the other 7 suspected kidnappers were arrested and held in detention for 2 months. The investigation is still underway, as well as the fate of this beauty queen. Number 11. On the Run. The Spanish National Police arrested Aurora Vasquez Rijos, a Puerto Rican woman, in Madrid on June 30th, 2013, on suspicion of trying to assassinate her ex-husband. For nearly 7 years, the former Miss Puerto Rico Petite winner was on the run. Rijos and Adam Joel Anhang, who she was finalizing a divorce with, were leaving a nightclub together on September 23, 2005. After paying $3 million to a hitman named Alex Pabon to assassinate her husband, Rijos drove Anhang to the premeditated location in Old San Juan, where the assassin stabbed and slashed him to death. Rijos pretended to have suffered minor injuries during the incident to hide her involvement, making it seem as if it had just been a mugging gone wrong. At first, authorities detained an innocent man in connection with the murder. Rijos was not accused until another FBI investigation in 2008, when Pabon was convicted of the crime. By that time, though, the former beauty queen had fled to Italy in 2006 and remained there until June 2013. She was soon recaptured and, as of October 2018, faces life in prison for her violent crime. Number 10. Pretty Suspect. Darlene Gentry was convicted of murdering her husband in February 2007 and sentenced to 60 years in prison. She was married to Keith Gentry, who she met at Texas State Technical College. Darlene, the former homecoming queen, and Keith had been married for 6 years when she called 911 on November 9, 2005. She told the operator that they hadn't slept together the night before and that she found him gurgling with pink froth around his lips in the morning. She also reported that his guns had vanished and that their back door had been left unlocked. Keith had been shot in the head but was still alive when police arrived. Around the house, though, there were no traces of forced entry. The man was brought to the hospital and police discovered a stack of weapons just outside the Gentry home when checking the area. They were also concerned that Darlene, a registered nurse, had done nothing to help her husband as he was dying. With this suspicion, they detained her and transported her to the police station for questioning. Keith was declared brain dead an hour into Darlene's interview. Officers soon brought Darlene back to the station after taking her to the hospital to sign papers, terminating her husband's life support. They determined she was the leading murder suspect. Further investigations concluded that Darlene had shot Keith herself using a 9-shot 22 caliber handgun his father had given him, which she later threw into a pond. Number 9. Dog Chain. The glamorous former pageant winner Brittany Nicole Poteet was charged with 2 counts of serious assault in August 2020 after whipping her ex-boyfriend with a metal dog chain. Ouch! That's gotta hurt. After flogging the 43-year-old inside their Sydney home, the woman, who had immigrated in 2014, left gashes across his back. For fracturing the man's nose, police charged Brittany with 2nd count of assault. Using Nikki as her nickname, Poteet was a professional wrestler for Kingdom Wrestling Entertainment and was also crowned Miss Virginia USA back in 2011. Nikki was forced to return her title shortly after uploading a photo of herself wearing it with an unfortunate comment, Miss Alcoholic USA. In September 2020, her charges were switched to Burwood Local Court. Number 8. Death Row Beauty Queen. Ruth Kamande, a 24-year-old Kenyan, was condemned to death in May 2018 for the murder of her partner, Farid Mohammed. Kamande actually won a beauty competition in jail and was dubbed Miss Langata Prison in Nairobi while she awaited trial. She attempted to challenge the country's Supreme Court's decision to give her the death sentence, but her efforts were useless. After Kamande stabbed Mohammed 25 times with a kitchen knife, his family requested a sentence that fit the crime. Her lover allegedly tried to infect her with HIV, according to the Kenyan woman. The judge, on the other hand, accused her of being deceptive and showing no remorse after the attack that left her boyfriend's body dead and covered in blood. Do you think people that are imprisoned for such horrible crimes deserve to compete in things like a beauty competition? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. Number 7. Miss Kentucky. Kia Hampton was arrested in Allen County, Ohio on May 28, 2017 for taking drugs onto government premises. She was elected Miss Kentucky USA back in 2010 and was the first ever African-American woman to represent Kentucky in the competition. But she was caught bringing 2.82 grams of marijuana into Allen Correctional Institute in Lima. It turned out she was delivering drugs to Jeremy Kelly, a prison inmate. Officers from the Ohio State Highway Patrol discovered the drugs after listening to Hampton's phone calls. They warranted a cavity check after getting enough evidence and stated that, while the woman was being interrogated, she reached inside her pant leg and pushed a marijuana-filled balloon to the floor. Hampton was sentenced to probation after a hearing in 2018, despite prosecutors' demands for harsher prison sentences. Number 6. Ham with your breakfast? Adayani Matias, a 20-year-old beauty pageant participant, admitted in September 2012 to planning to murder Oliveira, 21, after losing to her in a Brazilian beauty competition. Oliveira defeated Matias in the final round of the competition in Cariacica, southeast Brazil. The prize was starring in a popular local band's music video. Matias and her partner, Julia Mason Baston, wanted to be recognized as a dancing couple, so this would have been an amazing opportunity. The weight of the loss caused them to want to kill Oliveira to prevent any more. The 20-year-old persuaded her boyfriend to be the one to kill Oliveira as proof of his love. Oliveira was shot and killed in a hotel garden by Coria on September 12, 2012, only hours before the music video was supposed to be filmed. He allegedly texted his girlfriend after the killing stating, quote, "Now you can have some ham with your breakfast," where ham is thought to be a Brazilian slang for a dead body. Matias and Baston confessed to arranging the murder, and all three have been charged for their crimes. Number 5. Explosion. Kendra Gill, only 18 years old, was arrested in Utah on August 3, 2013, for building and tossing potentially lethal bombs from a moving vehicle. After driving around a suburban area and throwing plastic bottles loaded with tinfoil and toilet cleaner, she and 3 other friends were charged with felony bomb possession. Gill regretted her actions and resigned from her position as Miss Riverton upon her arrest. The former beauty queen and her companions allegedly played a prank on other friends in the neighborhood and claimed that they meant no real harm. Despite the fact that no one was injured, officials believe the makeshift bombs could have caused serious injuries, even death. They were first arrested for possessing an explosive device, which carried a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison. But the minors pled guilty to reduced charges of attempted possession of chemical or incendiary weapons in September of 2013, and were sentenced to 200 hours of community service instead. Number 4. REEVA. REEVA Steenkamp, a 29-year-old model, was the face of an anti-bullying campaign and appeared on the covers of magazines like FHM, and also did advertising for many popular brands in South Africa. Her abusive, controlling lover, Olympic athlete Oscar Pistorius, murdered her on Valentine's Day back in 2013. He shot her 4 times through the locked door of his home's bathroom, where she was huddled in terror, trying to get away. Her future was taken from her by a dangerous predator who had a history of abusing and dominating women, despite the fame he gained as a former Olympian. Pistorius was initially found guilty of, quote, culpable homicide in October 2014, and sentenced to 5 years in Pretoria's Kigosi Mampuru prison. That verdict was later changed to murder by South Africa's Supreme Court in December 2015, and his sentence was given an additional 6 years, which was appealed and upped again in 2017 to 15 years. Number 3. Taking the Crown. Carolyn Jury was arrested at 28 years old on April 4, 2021, for taking the crown from the new Miss Sri Lanka's head. Jury had won the title in 2019 and was also Miss World at the time. She argued that Pushpika De Silva, 31, did not deserve the crown because she was divorced. Jury snatched it from De Silva's head during the event at Colombo's Nilam Pokuna Mahinda Rajapaksa Theatre, leaving her with actual head injuries. She was soon charged with assault and detained, and she was also later seen on April 8th leaving a police station after being released on bond. De Silva required hospital treatment following the incident, and the crown was returned to her once the event organizers revealed she was not actually divorced. Miss Sri Lanka was eager to take the matter to court since Jury refused to make a public apology. Jury further resigned from her position as Miss World as a result of the incident, and her name is tarnished forever. Number 2. Heinous Acts. 29-year-old Monica Spear and her husband were soap actors, but sadly, Monica and her lover were killed after their car broke down in the middle of the night in central Venezuela back in January 2014. Spear, who was elected Miss Venezuela in 2004, lived in the United States but was on vacation to her hometown with Barry, whom she had gotten back together with after their divorce the year before. Maya, their 5-year-old daughter, was with them and was shot in the leg as well, but thankfully, she survived. The couple was murdered on the side of the road in El Cambur as they returned to Caracas after a beautiful journey across the country. They were driving a low-profile Toyota Corolla along the Interregional de Central Highway, which was a hotbed for gang attacks. Their vehicle struck an object left on the road by robbers, causing at least 2 of the tires to pop, and that made them pull over and call for help. A tow truck came to their aid before they were attacked and loaded the vehicle onto the truck by the time the attackers arrived. The truck driver and his assistant escaped, but left Spear and her husband alone to lock themselves in the car with Maya. The intruders opened fire with 6 bullets. Spear was shot in the head and died instantly. In response to public outcry, the public prosecutor's office sentenced Jean Carlos Colina to 26 years in prison, while Jose Ferreira Herrera and Nelfred Jimenez Ivari were sentenced to 24 years apiece. In the case, 4 other males, 1 woman, and 2 adolescents are still facing charges. Spear turned to acting after a victory as a beauty queen and became one of Venezuela's most popular performers, with her fame extending throughout South America. Spear's father, Rafael, urged for her murder to be a catalyst for change. The funeral was attended by hundreds of Venezuelan celebrities and ordinary individuals as well. The tragedy caused a lot of soul-searching among Venezuelans over the country's high rate of violent crime, which is one of the world's highest. Number 1. Deadly Lover. In January 2021, Zeina Canyo, a Lebanese model, was killed by her husband in their own home in Ain Maresa. Zeina was murdered after filing a domestic violence complaint against him. Her death was caused by strangling, said a forensics team. Canyo had only been married for a few months and had been subjected to domestic violence, so she filed for divorce. She exposed the abuse she had been subjected to by filing a formal complaint, which ended up causing her death. The husband seized her phone, turned it off, and fled to Turkey. Judge Ziad Abu Haidar of Beirut's Attorney General's office charged the husband, Ibrahim Ghazal, with murder, a crime punishable by death. Thanks for watching. Which one of these cases shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time on The Bad Badger.